James P. Thomas, and in the Navy I was a first-class petty officer, radarman originally, they became operating specialist, and then in the Air Force I retired as a major. After I left Vietnam, I went back, got out of the service. I was discharged at Great Lakes because of they wanted to check out a wound I received during the 68 Tet Offensive. And I started college. I was discharged from Great Lakes Naval Hospital on the 8th of August, 1969, and started college on the 22nd of August the same year. I had about basically 2.5 weeks off. I joined the reserves right after that and taught radar to a reserve unit in Des Moines, Iowa, until they started a reserve coastal riverine division at Great Lakes, and I became a plank owner of Coastal Riverine Division 2-1 at Great Lakes, and we had nasty class PTFs, and I made first class and became leading petty officer on PTF 19. And I was supposed to get commissioned in the Navy, go into Naval Aviation, and during my senior year I went to Aviation Reserve Officer Candidate School in Pensacola. While I was a senior at Drake University in Des Moines, I decided to take ground school for aviation taught by the Air Force ROTC, and the teacher for that course, the instructor, was an Air Force colonel who happened to be a Naval Academy grad with a master's degree from MIT. Well, we started talking, and the next thing I know, I'm taking the tests and joining the Air Force. Unfortunately, they took away my age waiver for flying because it was at the end of the Vietnam War, and they put me in missiles at Minot, North Dakota, and I became a missile launch officer, became an instructor, became a crew commander, and then went on wing staff. I was in Minot, North Dakota for almost 5 years. Well, Playboy did an article at Minot, North Dakota when I was there, and one guy who was in missile business described it as 97% boredom and 3% stark terror. I mean, you're either sitting there not doing anything, or there are times where you got the emergency war message. I remember one time they did a dual launch out of the Kentucky Peninsula and put us into a higher state of readiness. And that kind of, but you're underground, you're 80 feet underground, behind a 4-ton blast door and then an 8-ton blast door in this capsule that's on gigantic shock absorbers. And at the time, they didn't have TV or radio down there, so you basically worked on courses and things like that. But kept yourself busy and tried to keep yourself sane. It was an interesting job. I wouldn't recommend Minot, North Dakota, but I mean, I've seen antifreeze up there. It gets cold. But I'm still in contact with a lot of the people that I served with up there. I mean, you develop, in austere environments like that, just like Vietnam, you develop strong bonds and good friends. So, like I said, I became an instructor, taught other people how to launch ICBMs. Still can't program my own VCR, but know how to launch an intercontinental ballistic missile. Well, they had actually, what it does, if you're driving along in North Dakota around Minot, you'll see out in the middle of a wheat field this green house with double fencing all around it, and another house where they keep the truck or something like that. And that's where the Launch Control Center is. It's 80 feet underground, and a gigantic capsule where they keep the generators, and then it's because it's self-contained, and then the Launch Control Center. And that basically controls 50 ICBMs, or actually 10 ICBMs in a flight, but the squadron has 50 ICBMs total, in which you have interconnectivity. If one capsule goes down, you can have the other one take over. And Minot has 3 squadrons, so you had 150 ICBMs with upwards to 3 independently targeted warheads on it. So you got about, do the math, 450 nuclear weapons. They often said that if North Dakota ever succeeded from the Union, it'd be the 3rd largest nuclear power in the world. So, but it's basically, and like I said, you're under human reliability, and you don't want some crazy person under there. You'd have a 2-man crew. You had a commander and a deputy, and basically their positions were far enough apart where one person couldn't launch the missiles. Both people had to turn keys simultaneously, and it's not pushing the button, it's turning keys. And they're far enough apart to where you couldn't, I mean, we'd sit there, that's how we'd occupy our time, trying to figure out how to bring something up where one guy could do it, but that was just trying to keep ourselves from going nuts, you know. But that's, there are 2-man crews, and our tour was 20, we'd be out there for 36 hours. You'd go out there in the morning, and we leave the crew that'd been up all night, and they'd drive home. And then another crew would come out that evening, and then you'd go upstairs and sleep, and then come down for 24 hours, and then another crew would come out. But actually, so you do 12 on, 12 off, 12 on, and then go home, unless you had a blizzard. And there were times that some people were out there for 7 days. Yeah, and at this house, it looks like this little green house. You have a cook there, you have security police there, so you have about 10 people on site, but the whole purpose is to support the 2 people in the capsule. An elevator would go straight down, although you had the ability to climb down a ladder. But again, to get down to the elevator, you had to go through the security door that was controlled by the police, security police. And then you get down there, and then you'd have to open up this 4-ton blast door. And then you had to get into where the capsule was, which was controlled by an 8-ton blast door. And the way you could get it in there was by the people inside opening it. I mean, you couldn't get in unless they opened it. So it was a real secure environment. You get EWO, emergency war order message, an EWO message, and not until you go through the checklist and everything else, and then you get a second message saying that this is a drill. So it kept you pretty sharp.